Okay, so it's 7:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. We have a truck actually scheduled at 9 a.m. to come get the car and bring it to the factory. And what we're trying to do now, and that's my dad there at the back helping me out, is push the car out of the garage. As you remember from the previous video, the front brake drums are stuck up. So we're hoping so that we don't have to do a big mess here and take them apart, is that we can just push or pull the car and crack loose whatever rust is on those that has built up on those front drums. So we're gonna see now how that works out and figure things out before the tow truck gets here. Okay, so we're gonna try to push. No, that's not gonna go anywhere. We're just gonna hurt ourselves trying to push that out. Okay, so pushing it is not gonna work. So we're going to try to pull it out now. Okay, our rope got cut, so take two.
Nonsense of this was yesterday.
Hey, don't do that.
I'm just testing the rope.
How do you attach it?
Tie it together.
Pull it with
So at this point, we're giving up trying to pull it out because our rope keeps getting cut. And we're just going to hope that the winch of the flatbed is enough to pull this thing out. Okay, so of course, I am to blame for not preparing a proper tow strap for this exercise. But it is what it is. We really don't have one here at home, and we rarely ever need them, which is why all we have is rope. Nothing we can do. So in the meantime, we wait for the tow truck and we can have some coffee. Okay, while we're waiting for the tow truck, I figured it's a good chance for us to look over the car and talk about its history with us and what we have to do. So it's a 1960 Chevy Biscayne. The better known model of the range would be the top of the line Impala. The Biscayne was the base level, followed by the Bel Air, and then the Impala was the top spec. Pretty much the only difference would be trim. If this was an Impala, this chrome would be bigger. It would fill this whole space. This bird would have a nose that would be super long, and it would have more lights at the back. Like an Impala would have an extra light here. This cove would be chrome and stuff like that. Engine options varied. This is a V8 car, so original 283 V8. There were 6-cylinder Impalas, so it didn't really matter what trim the car was. You could get the car with either engine or whatever engine options. So for 60, there were, I believe, 2 6-cylinders or maybe one, and then a 283 V8, followed by a 348, I believe, V8 options. Brakes are our problem now. So it's a good chance to point out how far technology has gone in terms of brakes. So this is all the brakes you got with a giant car like this. It's a single pot cast iron master cylinder, and more like a modern clutch, really, more like a modern clutch master. So single line out to 4-wheel drum brakes. Sketchy at best, really, and as you can see, prone to a lot of problems. So I'm hoping that the winch will be able to get it out, because otherwise I really don't want to have to open those up here and work on drum brakes. We're probably gonna have to figure out an upgrade or something for that. So the car's been with the family since it was new. It was originally imported by Pan Am Airlines as a fleet car and assigned to my granddad, who was, I think, the chief accountant at the time. And then in 1962, they offered to sell the car to him for cheap, which he bought, replacing his 1940s Nash, I believe, is what his car originally was. So it's actually pretty good, even inside, because we restored the car in 1998. So Granddad owned it, I guess, for the rest of his life, and my dad inherited it, and it was basically their only car for the longest time. So Dad used this until, I believe, the last registration was 82. You can see the classic plate. This was the last of the old series, so up to about 77, they issued you a new plate every year. 77, 78, 79, and 80, you got a new plate if you were a new car, or a sticker if you were a not so new car. And then in 1981, they changed over to the current plate format, which we have also, but the documents of this car are actually in storage, so we don't accrue any penalties for not using the car. So Dad used this to about 82, I believe, was the last registration before we sold our house in New Manila, Quezon City, and we were forced to restore the car to get it running, which ironically is the same situation we have now. Because if you see our garage, this is a 4-car garage where this guy is taking up 2 spaces. 2 spaces out of our 4-car garage. And we recently sold the property where we garage other cars, so we need this space back for the meantime, which is why we're forced to get this car running, even though we really don't have too much budget to spare on it right now. And here's something for size comparison. So you know what a Lancer is, although that's not a particularly big car. So here at the back, we're like a foot. It's like a foot off from the back side of the 79. And on the front side, you have like another couple feet there. 3, I think about 3 feet length difference. So we restored the car in 1998 when we moved out of New Manila, and it was a so-so restoration. Friend of Dad did the restoration. If you look real close at the paint, there's, I don't know if we can see it with this camera. There's some bubbles on the paint, but overall, even from like a couple feet away, it's very presentable. The biggest, and then we of course we redid the interior, so all of the interior is nice. Pretty much a replica of what the original interior would have been. Fabric and vinyl combination. And of course the car is very complete because we've always had the car, so you know, there's a few things that need attention on the body to really get it to 100%. But the biggest issue was the engine, which was never properly rebuilt. There was a somewhat sketchy mechanic that specialized in American cars, supposedly, and when the car was restored in 98, the engine was already all seized up, being stuck since the 80s, which is about the same time, right? About 20 years. 20 years from 82 to 98, 20-ish, and another about 17 to now. So this is probably all stuck up too again, because these are iron heads. So they improperly fixed the engine. I was told that it was seized, and in the process of trying to unseize the engine, they like broke a piston and replaced it with another piston from a pile that they had, and it never really ran reliably, although, you know, we did use it for several years. I think we got this car back in 99 after the restoration, and I stored it in 2002, so we were driving it in between then. And, you know, I learned to work on a lot of things automotive related on this car. I mean, you can even see some of my, you know, I even have notes for like the firing order when I would pull the plugs out. See, firing order notes there and other things. But the engine eventually really just gave up its ghost. I think it will run with if you cleaned out all of the plugs which live under the exhaust manifold. If you clean them out and get it to start, it'll probably run for a few minutes before the plugs foul up with oil. So my guess is at that time it was probably rings, or could have been valve seals or whatever. And you could see a ton of smoke billowing out of the engine's breather. So the engine really has to be rebuilt. And the transmission hopefully is okay. Those are the, oh yeah, we forgot to talk about that. The transmission is a 2-speed automatic, so it's a GM Power Glide, which survives to this day in pro stock drag cars holding, you know, many thousand horsepower, modified versions of it, of course. But the transmission, 2-speed Power Glide, hopefully should not need any work. So basically engine first. So if we get the engine sorted and the brakes working, that pretty much covers what we need to get the car running. Oh, and of course, the fuel system. So out back here, and if we can see it, but out back here you'll see there's a big mess of our gas tank, which has rotted through. You'll see it when we pull it out later, but that gas tank is full of holes because of, I don't know, between deteriorating gas and the fact that it's a 1960 metal tank means the gas tank needs to be changed, and all the fuel lines as well. So, you know, gas tank, brakes, engine, and then it should run again. Check this out too, since we have a lot of time to admire our car, since it's uncovered and we're waiting for the truck. The 1960s was really the jet age or the space age of automotive styling. So check out this super curved windshield that's supposed to be kind of like a spaceship canopy design, and this swooping back all the way to the fins, all the way to those fins, and the taillights that are shaped like rocket boosters. I mean, that is, you know, that is styling excess these days, but you know, back in the day, that's as cool as it got back in the day. Imagine that. And here we have a grumpy old cat. Hey cat. Okay, so the flatbed is here and we're going to load up the car. Hopefully their winch is strong enough to pull our stock brakes on. It looks like the power takeoff winch of the truck is strong enough to pull our car. It's going to show you how long this car is. That butt is going to protrude from the end of the truck. I hope there's enough for the ramp to go up. And the it isn't a problem. It seems to be rolling quite nicely now.
Para kita ka dyan sa ano. Oh!
Purlong. Para makita ka purlong.
Okay. Okay, bilo, bilo. One. Op. Op. Balik. Okay, sige.
Ay, videographer.
Okay, sir.
Ito, baka mabukol. Mabungi pa. Ito. Ito. Buti ko, kaya ko mag-aon ang saan ko lang. Hanggang may katawagan sa kabilang makasip.
So the car is in our factory now, and the next stage will be to figure out what to do specifically to get it running again. So we have to talk to a few guys about the prospects of having the engine built, and or maybe doing it ourselves if we can find the time to do that. But for the meantime, it's here outside out of our garage at home, so we can use the space, and we will make an update when we figure out what we'll do.